Chad, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Jimmy. It's good to be here.
I'm pretty impressed. You're a quadriplegic. Let's just, start with that so my audience knows what's going on here. And you just drove here by yourself. You literally have no feeling from the chest down. So no feeling in your arms or your hands or your legs.
That's right.
And I mean, you drive, you run your ranch. You really are just so inspiring to watch the effort that you put into to live an exceptional life. It's part of my mission statement is to live an exceptional life. And most people in your situation, I don't know if I could be as strong as you are. I like to think I could, but you have not only decided, no, I'm going to live my life this way, but you've been to over 100 countries. You've been to all over the world. You were the youngest person ever inducted into the National Speakers Hall of Fame. You've really created just such a beautiful life. And so I just want to start out by honoring you with all of that. It's very inspirational.
It means a lot. It does, but I maybe as clarification, I'm still trying to create that, right? I mean, there are days that are you always look at people that have it maybe a little bit worse off. There's a lot going on in the world today. And so, as you mentioned, some of those things that I'm able to do, I am incredibly grateful. People are probably wondering, hey, he's moving his arms. He's not really a quad. You messed up, Jimmy. And the truth is, all you have to do to be a quad is to break any one of the 7 vertebrae in your neck. You remember Christopher Reeves?
Yeah, of course, Superman.
So, yeah, right. So he broke C1 and C2. So he had nothing, like nothing. So he was hooked up to the trach that you were talking about, and had the tube. And I broke C4, 5, and 6. So even though I broke more than he broke, I still broke lower towards the breast line. Therefore, I have the movement, which is strictly shoulders. So you're right. No hands, no forearms, no triceps, no biceps. So I use my shoulders to drive, as you just witnessed me.
So you just learned to use your shoulder muscles to direct your hands to be where they need to be.
And to use them to my advantage.
Yeah.
Instead of being in a power wheelchair, I use friction to push against tires that look like mountain bike tires instead of slicks. And just I always have a hoodie on. 2 sizes too big, so I can.
Sure. That's the style for like college kids nowadays.
All right, so that's the style that
girls and boys. So you're just styling, Chad.
I fit in, then I fit right in. So
how many countries have you spoken at?
89.
89. I knew it was close to 100.
Yep.
That's incredible. And the thing that is most impressive is you go by yourself.
Yeah, most of the time, no, it's there. I go by myself, but I'm never. And so people always credit me for that, but the truth is, I'm never alone.
Of course.
There's always strangers that I depend on. I mean, one of your assistants that's here today, a nice guy that's out in the front, he came out and was gracious enough to help me save some time and get me up the ramp to get in. I'm just saying that I did drive here alone, and people always say that, but the truth is I really depend on the other people's strengths to compensate where I'm maybe physically weak.
And you're a great example for that, though. I actually was thinking about this as I saw him helping you as I pulled up, and you're very good at asking for help, and it's because you have to. But like ultimately, so many people have a problem just being able to say, "Hey, can you help me?" Or I'm really struggling here. Can you give me some help? But there's a lesson in that. I
think there's some power in surrendering, right? And surrendering some independence. There has been for me, because if I didn't, I'd be probably watching, soap operas all day. I'd be stuck somewhere, and I don't like to consider myself stuck at all. So
well, and you mentioned when we had you come speak to my men's group a couple weekends ago, and you mentioned that it takes you about 2 hours to get ready in the morning. Is that
that's fair. Yeah, maybe some clothes are a little different than this. So this maybe an hour and a half because it's and the jeans are 2 sizes too big. Shoes are no laces. Slip-on shoes, Adidas brand. Hoodies 2 sizes too big. You can see how it kind of drapes over the wrist. But if I'm just gonna speak like yesterday, button-up shirt and some slacks and shoes that lace up, you can say 2 hours is fair. That's very, very fair. But I look at my perspective on that is not pity or empathy or even that, hey, this is a pain in the butt, because some people get up and they'll go to the gym, and I just think my going to the gym is getting dressed.
Sure.
So that I just look at it a little differently.
A perspective. I mean,
perspective's king. Don't you think? It's everything.
Everything. There's a meme, where there's 2 people that are in a subway or a bus or whatever, like a train, I guess, and the one person's looking out the window and it's just like nothing there. It's like dark. It's like a big wall. Look out the other side of the window though, and it's the most beautiful, scenery you've ever seen. And it's like, what do you want to look at? What do you want to focus on? Like whatever you focus on, you're going to feel. And, the way that you look at things in your life, everything's either a gift or it's not, and I know the best coaches I've ever had, and some of the best coaching I do is you literally just in a tough situation with somebody, you just have to go, okay, what's the gifts in this?
Absolutely.
I think that's your entire story is it's not what was taken away from you, but what you were able to gain. And by the way, I want to get into this probably later in the podcast, but one of the hard parts about being inspirational, Chad, like you are, is people expect you to always be on, right? They expect you to always be, in a good mood, and it's not.
Never,
and I know the pressure of that because I feel that sometimes, and I wanted to talk to you about that.
Yeah, there's prep involved. I mean, you have to get yourself in the right mindset. I mean, I know a couple of pretty high-profile speakers that they have to go put themselves in a very, very dark place so that when they come out with Brendon Bouchard or somewhere on big, on Growth Day or something like that, they're on a very, very high. For me, I just need to go and have a moment of gratitude. You and I have a mutual friend. He spoke at your event. Jeff Griffin. Yep. He's a para, right? And I watched what he did prior, and his routine a little bit, completely different than mine. What he did in front of all those men when he stood up, being a complete injury, right? He's a complete injury, but he's a low L, so he's right down by the hip bone, right? That's where his break's at. To watch him walk across and hug you, I've seen a lot of endings that are powerful. I have to admit, I lost it. So I asked him kind of that same question, like, for you to be able to do that. And he said, I can't, that's probably only the second or third time that I've ever done that. I can't do that. I just don't have the mindset and I don't have the strength. And,
oh, wow. He's only done it a couple times.
Well, that's, maybe more, but not every time. That's what I remember. So I want to be careful, very careful about how I, say that message, but the message that I got from him is that his mindset is such that he has to be right in the moment, and his mind has to be set, and physically the strength that it takes to. If you saw, he didn't sit by himself. He pulled on one of the guys that was right next. He pulled on him to get up, and then just to be able to, you saw how he kind of leaned on one leg and shuffled one across, and to watch that was like seeing a miracle in the scriptures or something. It was unfreaking real to me.
He literally walked, about 10 feet across the room. I turned to my right. One of the guys in my group, Richard, was just bawling.
I lost it. Yeah, I lost it. It was unreal. It was powerful. So.
Well, you are an inspirational speaker, one of the best in the world at that. I think everybody's going to want to know. I mean, some people are already familiar with you, some not. If you could kind of, and I know you probably told this story literally a million times, but okay. I'd love to hear the story because you weren't born a quadriplegic. You had an accident. And I think, that is a different thing than just being born in a situation where you never could walk or whatever else. So maybe if you could
remember what it's like,
take us back to that day and what happened and kind of tell us your story.
Sure. Maybe we kind of mix it up a little bit. I'd been able to be, with my legs, my body for the better of 27 years. So, and I'm 50 now, so I'm approaching that halfway mark, sooner or later, as I reach that halfway mark of being half my life in a chair. But I was building a dream, but didn't have the finances behind me to build that. So I started a funnel and started, back then when there wasn't funnels, I just kind of created my own in the construction industry. But the real dream was to have a big piece of ground and to raise elk and be a rancher. It's just kind of in my blood. It's a little different dream, but kind of fun, and if you can build a good base, man, you can do pretty good. And have a good living.
The way the world's gone, it's becoming more and more people's dream.
Yeah, it's just fun to have a big piece of Texas wherever you live. That's just that was kind of Montana's a great place to have that dream, and so I built that company up, and I'll never forget showing up. That was a Tuesday morning, April 3rd, the year that the two buildings fell in New York, the same year, 2001, just a few months prior to that, April 3rd, and so I'd gotten a phone call right after I showed up. To line up about 214 guys to get things kind of lined up, give them a kind of a kickoff message, a little bit of a safety message, and get them out in the field. That was, so as a contractor by day, farmer by night. That's kind of how my life was. And then after giving them that message, I went out in the field and worked with the guys and got a phone call around the 11 o'clock hour, and it was from my wife. It was from Shondell, and she was just expressing to me that the little boy, so we had two boys, 3 and 1, the younger of the two just taking his first 2 steps, man, and basketball's our gig. I know you're a baseball fanatic. You and I can remember, I played high school baseball. I got to play at a higher level in basketball. I just love the sport, and I have a little 3-foot rim. It's 3 feet off the cement floor in the garage, and I've been playing with a 3-year-old for a couple of years. Now this kid's walking. Maybe we can play some 2-on-2 with the wife, and just I don't know, we'll just rig it up. So I left early. Got them all lined out, and then I went out in the field, had to do the chores first on the farm so I wouldn't have to go back out. And, hindsight's always 20/20. I actually did opposite the message that I gave my guys that morning, which is kind of a double standard and hypocrisy. And I guess, we look at that, and I guess we're probably all guilty of that in one form or another in certain times of our lives, but that's exactly why I sit. I'm not sitting because I'm stupid or because I'm ignorant to what safety really is or even what leadership looks like. I chose to ignore a warning sign on my tractor that told me my hydraulics were low. And
when you'd probably gotten away with that a million times before, right?
That's why I didn't fix it. You nailed it. That's exactly why.
It's like we do so many things, whether texting and driving or just that we all do these little things that it's not a problem till it is. But we know that it's there's a reason that we've been warned not to do it, and then all of a sudden in an instant your whole life is changed.
Maybe it's just a gut instinct, right? It doesn't have to be spiritual. Just we know what the speed limit is, but hey. What's wrong going 7 miles
Right.
over? I know to drive slower in the rain, but hey, I got to get there. And then it becomes a belief, right? It becomes it's in your mindset that hey, I've gone away with it. I can get away with it again. So I didn't listen to the red light. Long story short, that bale of hay that weighs more than your truck that you pulled up here and it flipped over because there wasn't enough oil to hold it in, and she landed right on my head. That bale struck me, stayed there, punched my head through the shaft, and the shaft went right through this area here, just I guess
Through your mouth area?
Yeah, right through the mouth. I guess least path of resistance. I don't know how that all worked out that way, but it busted this all up. Broke C3, C4, C5. C6 was damaged. Spinal cord severed at C3. That's why I have the movement that I have.
Okay.
And then broke some ribs. And so there's a scar on my neck here that goes down to about the nipple line, the breast line. And that's where my new life was to begin. So that's really kind of in a nutshell what happened that night. And then things just, after that, it was just, recovery, not just physical, but mental and all the things that follow that.
Take us back to the moment you wake up from the injury and find out that you're paralyzed. What's that? I mean, just that's everybody's
the first
biggest
part,
fear, right?
is just waking up and just, what's going on? Why is my mouth dry? Why are my lips chapped? It's because no drinking. I was in a coma, right? So my lips are chapped. Why is my nose dry? What's going on? It's coming true. And there was no white coats in the room, but my dad was there, and I recognized him. It was like I was dreaming, but yet I was fully conscious and awake, and had just come to. And looking back, my dad had made me aware, a few months later, that my dad had been asked to be the first one to talk to me. And there's a reason for that. And it's because of what you're talking about, those finding out what my life's going to be like. The doctors knew what the prognosis was. They knew it was a complete injury. They knew that there was no cure for the spinal cord. And so hence, this is what you can expect. My dad didn't want me to have them tell me what to expect. My dad wanted me to create that for myself, whether it was going to be completely negative or completely positive or completely off the charts. He wanted to be the one to express that to me and give me that, from him. And just that right there. I mean, I've got, the two boys. You've got people that are very close to you. I mean, I just think that takes guts. I don't know that I could do what he did in the matter that I just don't know that I could do it. Better let somebody else do it. I just don't know that I could do that with a straight face like he did it. There was no tears. I mean, there was some remorse, but there was no tears. He just gave right to me. He started off with some good news, and he just said, you're here with us, and that's great, but that's not enough. I mean, you've done a great job building a dream. I need you to have more intention just so I can get through this. I think it was his way to recover as well. I really need you, son, to have more intention. So, and then he told me that the doctors repaired the damage, and that I had been in an accident. I remembered all that. I remember being struck. I remember all that. I didn't lose any mental capacity or any memory function.
You had the memory.
Absolutely. My wife's argued that, but I was there. I mean, I knew what was going on, but I couldn't feel jack. I mean, I couldn't feel anything. And that's when he told me, he said, he didn't say that I was paralyzed, and he told me that due to the accident that happened that night, that I'd lost the use of my feet, and that my legs were most likely going to be numb for the rest of my life. I lost the midsection, lost all stomach muscles, 2 out of my 3 chest muscles. The one muscle I have is the diaphragm, which allows me to not be hooked up to the trach. And it took me some time to get that back and to wean myself off of that, the trach. And that I lost all function of my fingers and my hands, and that's why they're curled. And then I lost the strength and use of my forearms, my biceps, and my triceps. So I retained my shoulders, and that's where my new life was to begin. And then what was I going to be able to do with shoulders? Because most, like me, are in a little bit different. It's not saying that I don't want to. I want to be very careful how we word this, because I don't want to. It's just choices.
Sure.
It's not that I'm better. The one way. I mean, I'll be an electric wheelchair. So great, because you can climb stairs nowadays with these suckers. I mean, you can go up any mountain. I mean, I remember when you came out, you had those guys climb the mountain with sandbags. Just put one of those suckers on my lap. I'll beat those guys up the hill, no problem, right? But he wanted me to see if there was some ways that maybe I couldn't challenge myself, like you challenge, your team and everybody that follows you. You really, that's why they love you. You challenge them. He was doing the same thing to me. He wanted to challenge me to do something. It's a benchmark, and to do things that hadn't been done. And so. But I did not. I wasn't there when I got that news. It wasn't all right. Let's get after it. There's no way. I mean, I was done. I mentally checked out. I thought that my dad lacked credibility, Jimmy. I said some things to him that I remember very clearly. That none of us should ever perhaps say to our father, even if it's justified. It's better probably keep your mouth just shut. And I said those things to him because I felt like he was coming from a place of no credibility. And I'll never forget what he did. He didn't hit me. He didn't swear back. There was no F-bombs. I mean, he just turned around and he just walked out of the room. And I'll never forget how dark I felt then. I mean, I'm awake and I don't have the strength to yell for people. I'm sorry. I can't, there's none of that, buddy. I mean, I can't hit the button to get a nurse in the room. I mean, and I don't know how long it was, but I'm going to guess maybe 2 minutes, but it seemed like a day. I mean, it seemed forever because I was scared. I mean, I was truly scared.
Oh, I can't. I can't even imagine waking up in that situation, hearing that news, and there's just knowing how much of your life is going to be completely different.
And where's Shondell? Is she married already? Is she gone? All these thoughts.
You really didn't even know how long you've been out for.
I mean, it's just he and I talking, and there's a reason why he asked to be the first, and why he asked Shondell and my mom and the kids and brothers. Nobody in the room, just me and him. I mean, he's been my coach my whole life.
Sure.
Basketball, partners in the ranch. Just building me up. He's been an entrepreneur his whole life. I mean, I followed his footsteps. I just went kind of a different route, but still in the entrepreneur world, And so he was an insurance salesman and did very, very well at that. And so he knew the independence level that I had. He knew the pride that I had. And when I was going to get these words, he knew that I was going to probably go south, which is exactly what I did. And him walking out was his way of showing me that, there's nothing that he could do. In other words, he can't make me be a teachable person. And he came back and he said, are you gonna be stubborn like this and be bullheaded like all those horses that are on your ranch? Or are you gonna be one that's willing to be taught, and be a horse that's willing to be broke a little bit, and then benefit other people because you're willing to surrender and be broke? And that was and then all that, then it took time after that to try and really practice what he was trying to teach me. But that was the verbiage that I got before I saw anybody, before I got to see Shondell, the kids, the doctors coming in, the nurses. That was the first. What
a beautiful lesson just to kind of start you on that tone, right? Because I remember I rolled my truck when I was 21, and I woke up in the hospital a day later. And when I woke up, I had tubes coming out of me, and I remember I had a catheter in, and I remember thinking to myself, the first thing I did was wanted to make sure my legs were working. I was terrified that, I had no idea.
How old were you when this happened?
I was 21.
Okay, so
yeah,
fresh.
Yeah,
it's fresh.
I know. I was just like, first thing I did, I was just like, oh, okay, that's good. But I was terrified. I didn't know what happened. I actually didn't remember the wreck.
So
I rolled my truck on the freeway.
Okay.
And I could have been, right there.
To this day, no memory of it?
No, and I think that's probably a trauma response. That's a good thing to, I don't want to.
The body acts in a certain way.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, I kind of have a little bit of idea of that waking up, but, thankfully in my situation, it wasn't as serious. But so how long did it take you then before you could really accept, I think is the word, the situation, and then from there start to go, okay, how did you find vision and purpose for the rest of your life at that point? I guess you had your wife and kids, which probably was everything at that point to help you.
Yeah, you know, when you're responsible to take care of some people, that it does add to the game. But it's easier to just say, you know what, take everything. Let me be a hermit. Let me be an Obi-Wan Kenobi for the rest of my. I mean, you know, let me just live by myself. That's so much easier. And at first, I did that, and I'll never forget. You know, him saying that there are several ways to coach and to teach, and they did keep the kids away from me for a while. That is true. That's something I don't share a whole lot. It's in the book, but I don't know that I talk about it as enough as I probably should, because I think there's some good learning lessons there. The reason why they kept the kids away from me is because my attitude could hurt and devastate them. They yearned. They wanted to see their dad. They knew that their dad's late, and they wanted to help. And I refused to let them do that. So I was robbing them of the opportunity. And Shondell, there was no way that I was going to have her at the young age of 25, I'm 27, right? Have her. That was I cannot do that. Just let me be, you know, all right, can I hit my head on a brick somewhere? I mean, there's got to be a way out of this thing. I mean, death seemed like a better option. I'm just being honest. Death, suicide, a total option for me. I just couldn't figure out how do you do it. You know, I can't get the pills in my mouth. I can't get the bottle.
You want to hear a funny joke that's kind of dark?
I'll take it.
This is pretty good. I think you can appreciate it. I think we have that kind of friendship at this point, Chad. So my first night I ever did stand-up comedy, right? I got 75 of my family and friends there, so I'm pumped. I go up, do my 5 minutes. It's fine. It was good enough, you know. The guy goes up after me. It's Dave Metcalf, if you've ever heard of him. Oh my gosh, he's hilarious. So, you know, he's a hunchback.
Yeah.
And so you got to picture this, those listening. He's a hunchback, and you know, if you put your shoulders up in the air, that's kind of what he looks like. And he tells this joke. Have you ever heard his joke about it?
Oh,
that's the best joke I've ever heard. Literally the best joke I've ever heard. And he's talking about, you know, growing up being a hunchback and everyone making fun of him. And he says, you know, I eventually got to a point. I said, you know what? That's it. I'm gonna end my life. I'm gonna hang myself. I don't want to do this anymore. And he says, but then, you know, just when I was gonna do it, when I was gonna hang myself, I remembered something. I remembered something that stopped me. I remembered that I have no neck. I've never laughed so hard in my life. The whole audience.
What's the alternative? You know,
he goes, so there I was swinging from my shoulders.
Suffocating by blood withdrawal.
Yeah. So anyway,
tourniquet right across the chest.
I thought maybe you could appreciate that joke. It's the funniest thing I ever heard. I was just like, oh my gosh, to be able to laugh at that is so good.
You know, yeah, that's just it. So that's the lesson right there.
Right.
Is, you know, to be able to laugh at the circumstance, which is what my wife taught me. And then the kids came in, and to see them not laugh at my circumstance, but to see them smile because they got to see Dad. And hey, you know, Dad, we know that you can't walk right now. We don't want you to walk. You promised you'd play ball.
Well, I guarantee you, I mean, I know what kind of boys you have, and I guarantee you just the opportunity, again, to use that word, the gift in this, to be able to serve that somebody that they love unconditionally like that their whole lives, basically since they were 1 and 3, you know, what that did for their person, what that did to make them better people.
Shondell says that a lot, you know, Jimmy, she does. I think the tough thing for me is sometimes I agree with everything you're saying, and it makes me feel warm and good. That's true. But there's another side of me that thinks, you know, I'm kind of the guinea pig for that. And it's so much easier to be able to give to those people than it is to be on the receiving end. And so, yes, what you're saying is complete truth, and you're right. And I do think that my accident, I know it did, because they were so empathetic and created a movement in their school about taking every disabled kid, no child left behind. Well, we've all heard what that system. My kids demonstrated it by actually no wheelchair, no Down syndrome, no kid in the special ed class left behind when it comes to every single dance at that high school. And they started that movement. And Shondell, as we've taught, maybe them growing up, yes, that had something to help create that in their mind, to create that kind of, which still happens today after they've been graduated. So yes, great thing. To tell you that I still don't reminisce would be a complete, it doesn't mean that I'm not grateful. I'm very grateful for my life and where it's at today, and everything you've said is true. And I wouldn't change that, because I'd have to give up everything that I've learned, meeting you and meeting all these other people. I can't change that. There's no way.
Well, and I always say it's like, you know, my life didn't go the way I expected it to. I
Sure.
didn't expect to one
So
day
there you
wake
go.
up being
There-
42, never married, and
That's right.
you know, just doing what I'm doing.
There.
But it's like there's trade-offs in life. It's like you can't play the game of like, well, what if I did do that?
You
because
can't.
you
That's right.
just pick a route. You pick a path and you enjoy that path. Like you have to honor the one you're on. And
right.
you know, in this life, I actually think there probably is multiple lives. I don't know. I don't really care. But I know in this life, it's the only one I'm going to be this way. And so you pick a path and you just love the
I
path
love what you just
pick.
said. I love what you said. And you don't have to know.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't care.
You don't have to. You're right where you're at right now,
Yeah.
and you take that and you roll with that.
Yes.
And you pick which pillar you're going to take, and that to me is a key. So every morning when I wake up, I've got a choice to make. Am I going to wake up and wake up groggy and a little upset? Am I going to wake up and you know, find a moment of gratitude, even if I have had a slip up during the night, or if maybe if I fell off the bed, which has happened before, or maybe I dropped my phone, I can't reach the phone. All right, now what am I going to do? And so you know, so just you pick that reaction, and that's going to affect the entire day. And my days, it's one day at a time.
Yeah.
It is one day at a time.
How do you get through the tough days? What like because I'm sure there's plenty of times where
Lots,
you're just
yeah.
like, this is bullshit. You know?
Straight up,
laying on the floor,
That's
can't
exactly
get
what I
back
say.
to your chair.
That's
you
exactly
know?
what I say. Or if so, when I'm on the road, I receive help from people that I love, but that I'm not in love with. When I'm at home, Shondell doesn't want. Her love language is service. Mine is something else that starts with an S. I mean, that's my love language, but it's different today, right?
Sure.
Just the whole body just works completely different. And so reminiscing, right? Thinking about, you know, how things that could have been and how all that would have worked out. But that said, it's those bad days. I just say, this is bullshit. But I can't change the bullshit. And so I'm just going to roll around in it for a little bit and then make the best of that. And that helps me get through it. And then one thing I really try and do is when I'm going through that loss, or let's say I'm going through that crappy moment, or when I'm focusing on something that I have lost, what I will do is simply remember what I still have. And that is that you know, I've got an appointment with Jimmy today at 4:30. I can't be late. Got to make sure I'm there on time. I need to make sure that I'm ready for tomorrow morning. I have a flight at 6 o'clock. That means I got to get up at 3 and be on the road by 3:15, 3:30. Shonda's going to help me, so it saves me 2 hours, right? So that's the idea. Get to the airport by 4:30 and catch a flight by 6. That's the game plan for the next 12, 14 hours. When I'm focused on that, I don't have time to think about, you know, what I've lost. Tonight, you know, I'll go home and I'm going to R&R a little bit and, you know, probably have some halibut or some salmon and I'm good to go. You know, so I'm kind of excited about that because it's been a little bit of time on the road. So I just try and focus on just these little, I call it the power of incrementalism. Not you know, I have long-term goals. I have big goals and I have things I still want to accomplish, but it's not going to happen overnight. So I'm just going to go, you know, one stripe at a time. I learned that when I pushed my chair from Temple Square to the Mirage in Vegas. I gave up, buddy.
What? You pushed your chair from
Temple Square in Salt Lake to
all the way to
the Mirage, 513 miles.
Oh my gosh.
I did that back in 2003, and I did that
2 years after the accident?
2 years after the accident. Yeah, I trained for 18 months at the high school, out on the track, and then in the wintertime I trained indoors in the gym, and then they have an indoor, just kind of, it's not even a track really. And some high schools have a track, but this is kind of an indoor arena on tile. I trained on that, and then I would go and they would duct tape and Velcro weights on my arms so that I could just do shoulder. And then that's when I learned to use my hands without the gloves. I had sticky gloves before, and so, you know, just gripping. And so I trained for 18 months to do that, and I gave up in Mesquite. So let me just...
A lot of people have given up in Mesquite.
Yeah. That's a whole... I mean, we can go that route. That's very, very fair. I know you're going to go that route, but I didn't even think about it. But yeah, a lot of people don't give up Mesquite. They don't give up Mesquite either, but I gave up Mesquite. But I remember, you know, when we kicked off, there's a powerful message here. When I kicked off in downtown Salt Lake at 4 o'clock in the morning, July 11th, 2003.
You do this in the summer?
Yeah, there's a reason why. Because I don't sweat. Oh. And it's easier for me to cool down than it is to get warm. So I don't sweat at all. I lost that ability. And so it's just called dysreflexia. And so my body, which means I've saved a lot of men deodorant, and I have probably more friends than you have because I don't stink. You know, and so it's easier for me to get doused with water than it is for me to get warm. That's tough. And so hence I got 4 layers on it. It's just hard for me to stay warm. And so with that said, we took off in the middle of summer, a lot of people there, and you're motivated by that. But I noticed with each passing day, especially when you're going through the back roads to get, you know, to Beaver County and then on through St. George, the crowds got less and less. I also trained for 53 miles a day, 53, which would get me there about a day before if I stayed on track. Well, that first day, buddy, I was feeling great. I mean,
Sure.
highway patrol on motorcade motorcycles, two in front, two in back, motorhome behind us, pilot car in front, pilot car behind. I mean, it was cameras, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox. In the breaks they would come up and they wanted. It was kind of cool to have that kind of recognition. It just kind of made me feel good. So I went 70, 74, 75 miles. Day 2, same thing. Day 3, it hit me. I mean, it caught up to me, and I think we went like 40 or 35 miles. I mean, I had to push my chair going downhill. That's where I was struggling. I mean, I was really having a hard time. I'm going to skip to day 6 and day 7. We hit Millard County, which is Beaver Mountain.
Sure.
It's a mountain that's twice as steep as Parley's Canyon. It increases at over 4,500 in just 2.5 miles. So that gives people an idea. It took me 2 days to do just those couple. 2 days. Now I plan on getting there in 2 days, but I learned with every up, there comes a down, and I hit 35 miles an hour.
Did you really?
But when you're going 35 miles an hour in a wheelchair, suicide is an option.
Of course.
It's a total option. And then fast forward to day 8 in Mesquite.
Did they have like a rope on you or something in
But
case you got away?
So what? It's funny you mentioned that, because going uphill,
Yeah.
I couldn't prevent myself from going back. So they had chocks or somebody's foot as a choke right behind me. Just every inch gained, they would keep that inch, and I gained that inch, and they would let me go. So I got to savor that moment. So it was just with every push, every foot. When we hit Mesquite, we switched to marathon from daytime for the reasons you said. It was so hot. The asphalt temperature was like 122. I wasn't sweating, but that kind of heat, it will take it out of you. So they were dousing me. And so we switched it to go at night. And around 2:30, 2:35 at night, just past Mesquite, I just stopped. You've seen Forrest Gump?
Yeah, that was you.
Forrest Gump?
Yeah, when he's at Monument Valley.
He'd gone from the Atlantic, the Pacific, Canada, Mexico,
4 times,
4 times, right? And he just stops. I think I'll go home now. Yeah. That's exactly what I did. I mean, I'm done. And my dad was in the motorhome. I mean, I was by myself, and I was pushing. All right, I'm done. And he came up to me again. My dad's got these scenarios. He comes into all these pictures and all these moments, and he's everything all right? And I said, I think I'll go home. I'm tired. I'm worn out. And he praised me and said, you know what? You've gone further than we all thought you'd go. It's great. It's incredible. Why don't you come sit in the motorhome, have a Gatorade, and let's rest for a minute. Let's just talk. I said, all right. So he picked me up and he carried me in the motorhome, and he said, how are you measuring your success? And I said, what do you mean? He said, how do you know how close you are? And I said, well, for one, I can see Las Vegas. The lights in the sky. You can see it. But we all know that it's 87 miles away. We just passed Mesquite. And he said, which tells me, son, you're looking at the green signs. I said, yeah, and I'm looking at the green mile markers. I mean, I know exactly how far I've got. I've got 87 miles left. He said, that's commendable. If you're willing to go out and give it another shot and stop looking at the green signs and look at the yellow hashes in the middle of the road, you might be able to accomplish something that no one's ever done before. But I'm not going to make you do it. He said, I love you no matter what, but I'm just saying, if you're willing to go back out there, I'll be right by your side, and we'll count those yellow hashes. You can count that way. And so you've seen the horses, the Clydesdales, they put the blocks on there. That's exactly what we had, buddy. And I know blocks straight ahead, cop in front, cop in back, no pilot cars. And we were on I-15. And that night I pushed like 2,300 stripes. The next night I pushed just over 9,000. And on day number 10, we pushed 11,342 stripes, mile marker 42, which is Apex Junction. It's at the top of the hill. The rest of the way is 17 miles downhill into Vegas. You pass the NASCAR track when you get off that frontage road. I mean, it's unreal. And at 9 o'clock that morning, they stopped the strip for me. They had the stoplight stop, full motorcade, the helicopter. It was unreal. And I coasted my way. And people were coming out of the casinos because it was on the TV screens. Now, granted, they were all drunk, but I didn't care. I mean,
your best fans at that point.
Best fans, buddy, and they were all there. They were cheering for what they didn't know what they were cheering for. Just something to cheer for, and they were all drunk. It was the best. It was the best welcome in the world. And I crossed that finish line, and there went up a cheer that made me. I wept. That made me weep, and I'll never forget what my dad said when he said, while the difficult takes time, the impossible, it might just take you just a little bit longer, which is a quote from Art Berg, and that's what my dad had learned during the accident while he was out there trying to help me get to that goal. So anyway, that's
Well, there's just so many lessons in that. When I'm coaching the guys, if somebody has something that feels like a huge thing that they either need to start doing or stop doing, I said, hey, you don't need to do this for 10 years. You need to do it today.
Yeah.
Win today.
Just win the day.
Win the day. So I had Andy Frisell on my podcast a couple of years ago. He's the one that created 75 Hard.
Yeah.
And it's become this kind of cult thing, like everybody loves doing it. But he explained it. He said, if you win the day and you stack enough of those wins in a row, you have a great life.
Absolutely.
He said the entire program is designed to win the day. Yeah. You just got to win today. You just got to, if you're trying to quit drinking, just don't drink today.
Yeah.
Just don't do it today. Wake up tomorrow and make a new decision tomorrow. But today you're not. Today you're not going to eat whatever, something that you shouldn't if you're trying to get in a specific shape or whatever it might be, or if you're trying to train for a marathon or whatever. So, well, that's pretty incredible that you had the chance to do that.
What you just said applies to everything. Addictions,
Yes.
People are addicted to so many different things. Apply that today, or maybe just, the hour.
Yeah.
The next, I got to focus on something. I got to get myself out of this mindset.
People say, I'm not a reader. I haven't read a book in 10 years. Okay, well, you're going to read 10 pages today. Yeah. Just today. Pick up a book, read 10 pages.
That's right.
Tomorrow, make a new decision, read 10 more pages.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah. That really is. It's, it's interesting. And being in your position, I'm sure you've been able to experience this firsthand, but anything that is really great that you have to create, it's just consistency over time.
Yeah, consistency compounds.
It is.
I mean, I've learned that. Consistency compounds. And once you do that, once you read those 10 pages, after you do that for, I don't know what, there's some science people say 21 days, but after you do that, you can't stop. Mm-hmm. You kind of, it's no different than probably a drug or that. It becomes so instead of being a negative thing, it's a positive thing. Reading's a great thing. I mean, I think that consistency compounds. Sure.
Have you ever been to Israel by chance? Yeah. So did you go down? It's a couple hours south. It's where
I got carried down because there's no ramp there.
Yeah, the thing that they take you up. I can't remember what it's called right now. But yeah, so there's a gondola to go up this thing because what happened was there was the last of the Jews were trying to find a place to hang out before they would get killed by the Romans, and they found this spot where there was no way to get to them. But the Romans decided to set an entire army, and they just kept throwing dirt against this ginormous thing until it took them years. Yeah. But I think it took like 6 years of throwing dirt on this every day till they built a ramp, this ginormous ramp. They basically built an entire mountain.
Bridge, yeah.
Yes, and then they went and killed them.
That's right.
It's crazy though. It's like, oh wait, like one scoop of dirt at a time, they built an entire mountain.
You're going to use that example as consistency compounds. You're going to use that.
It just made me think
I love the Jimmy Rex podcast. This is great. Yeah,
this could go anywhere.
The principle is true, though. It is, right? I mean, I guess if you want something bad enough, or if you're driven that hard, you will do whatever it takes. And that, again, don't like the Jews being killed off like that, but the principle is a correct one. And I applied that, even in today's life. We see a lot of that going on right now around our country, around our communities, around our schools. It's just that same thing, people's mindset. And it's that negativity. And I think like what you're doing, we reverberate that. We switch that mindset with young people, with young adults, high school kids, and you're grown men that are trying to shift their mindset to have that relationship. And I saw eyewitnesses, I was in the audience, and you were talking to them, or you put them on these trails, or they went and did some very, very difficult things, whether it was a cold plunge, or some of these guys haven't shot a shotgun before. They're climbing up a mountain with a 50-pound. They got to pick up a guy up and carry him up this hill, and they're thinking, all that back and no, you're in this. If you step out, everybody else has got to carry that weight. Are you going to make them do that? I mean, it's all a mind game. It's all it is, and it's getting past that mindset. They can do that consistently, buddy. They're going to live a very, very good life, which is what I feel like I'm living. I'm living a great life. Doesn't mean it doesn't have challenges, but I can't complain about one thing.
Well, it's such a beautiful perspective because, if you think about it, if you were God and if you could play God and you could make everything work for you and you had no challenges or no problems, how many days, let alone years or lifetimes, would have to go by before you would be so bored that you would be creating the very challenges that you and I have today, right? You would want to have these difficulties. You would want to see the experience of what if I had to spend 25 years in a wheelchair and see how that goes for you.
How would you even know? I mean, how would you even know what that looks like if all you had was great days?
Right.
That's all you had. You wouldn't even know what great.
I love living in Utah because we get all the seasons, and you're always so grateful for summer to come back.
For sure.
And then by the time winter gets there, you kind of want winter to be there.
Want the fall.
You're ready for the fall. I know. I love having all four seasons.
I totally agree. I don't know that I could go live in some of those states where it's just 100 degrees or 90 degrees year round. You don't have the season. You have the beaches.
Yep.
But, there's no variety in the seasons.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
What's the single thing you miss the most that you're not able to do being in a wheelchair?
Man, there's a few things.
And I know it's a tough question, but I
know
ask
what it is.
because
I'm just trying to say it appropriately. So intimacy is a big one for me. It's not because Shondell demands it or anything like that. And so to me, I think sometimes we lose something, we take it for granted. I mean, last night I was talking to a group of 25 sales guys, and they did some Q&A. And one of the guys said, "Hey, can you get an erection?" I don't mind any. I don't mind questions. I am very, very open to that. The truth of that is, Viagra and Cialis, that's not how it works for me. There's a shot. It's God's greatest gift to earth. And if I'd have known about that at age 21, I'd have been on the sucker at 21. This shot's amazing. The problem is it lasts for 3 weeks, so you can't go anywhere for 3 weeks. That's the problem with the shot. So they want to know the name of the shot. Hey, Chad, you got any samples? Anything. But so that would be one answer. Aside from intimacy, how about just going out and playing some catch? I thought about that a lot. Just with a niece or a nephew, just throw on a mitt and a glove, and let's just go out on a beautiful fall day. Baseball starting spring. Baseball in fact just started today. Let's go out and let's just you pitch to me. I'll catch you. Pitch to me.
When I ask the question, because I think that we do take for granted some of these things that we just are able to do or we get to do, right? And so I ask the question with a purpose because I want people to listen and hear, like why it's so important just to have that gratitude and not take for granted the things that seem very mundane in our lives that we get to do just because they're things that we do.
I remember, again, the question poses to itself, what do I miss? I've learned now to kind of shift that mindset a little bit. I remember sitting in my front room watching my wife play soccer with both boys when they were young out on the front lawn, and it was one of those days where I wasn't doing what we were talking about. I was pissed at God. I was pissed at myself. I was mad at my legs. I was mad at my wife for doing what I should be doing. I mean, you could, anything in the room, I was mad at it. Yep. And there was a door like we have here in the studio, and there was a threshold, and I don't know what caused it to happen, but there's a ramp that goes down to the lawn where they were playing. It's a cement ramp that some contractors built for me. I didn't want to go play with them. I just wanted to go out and kind of just maybe soak in the atmosphere and just see kind of what happened, but not go out on the grass because I can't move on the grass anyway. So I wheeled out there and I just said this to the two kids. I said, "Hey, do you guys mind if I sit up here and, watch you guys play?" And the little blonde-haired kid, who was probably 4, said no. And I said, I deserve that. Fair enough. I turned my chair around. I went to go back in the house, and before I started to push over the threshold, but I wasn't making any progress, and I kept pushing. And I couldn't. I'm a bobblehead. I mean, I don't know what's going on, and I look, and the kid has got a hold of the bar. The same blonde has got a hold of the back bar of my chair, and he's pulling me back. And I said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Dad, you can't watch. You're going to play." I said, "I don't want to play. I just wanted to watch. I didn't ask to play." And when you're in a wheelchair, you don't have any say about that. I mean, that kid put me down the ramp, took me on the lawn.
Going where he says.
But I'm going right where he's pushing me. He pushed me on the grass, didn't listen to a word I said, which most kids don't anyway, right? Goes right into the garage, and he grabs 2 orange cones. He put one by this tire and one by this tire. And he said, "Dad, Mom said you're numb. You're going to be the goalie." So when we kicked the ball, and it shouldn't hurt, Dad. And the only difference between him and you is he was dead serious.
Yeah.
In that, "Dad, you're going to be the best goalie in the world." No, so he was trying to build me up.
Wow.
No one will ever score on you, Dad.
Wow.
And once I realized that, but I never missed. Never missed after that. Never missed. Because I realized now the perspective of playing catch isn't so much about catching the ball myself. Am I present out there with them and involved, even if it's just talking or being present without saying a word, and then meet my eyes watching them play and them knowing that I'm watching. Showing up at my nephew's game, he always was grateful. I've got a nephew that playing college now, and great ball player. Loved watching him play, and he'd always come up to me and he'd drop to me after give me hugs. "Thanks, Uncle Chad, for coming to watch me, but it means a lot to me that you came to watch me play tonight against our rival." And I said, "Bud, I don't care if you lost or not. That was an awesome dunk, and you had a great game. That was fun to watch. I will never miss one of your games. I love watching you play. It's my brother's son. I mean, that just being there without even saying a word, just being present." So when we talk about things that I wish I could do, yes, there are probably several things, but then there's a contrast that when I get out and just kind of get engaged and get involved as best I can. Like there were some of the guys that you had that couldn't climb that hill.
I know,
but they were cheering everybody else. That's what I'm talking about,
yeah.
right? They were doing what they could.
Yeah,
they were, they were cheering everybody else on because I think one guy had I think you're aware of this. He had a torn foot or something was wrong with his foot, so he could not do some of the physical activity.
Right.
He physically couldn't do it, right? But he was right there cheering everybody else on, saying, "Hey, man, I'm here. I'm here for it. I wish I could do it. I got you covered."
He had hypothermia on his feet, is what it was.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Frostbite.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's the guy. That's him. Yeah, I remember that. So he couldn't do that hill thing, but you could hear him. And you could hear him on the tape, which is what I watched. You could. So he was there. So that's kind of the perspective that we need to have.
Yeah.
To tell you that I always have it. That's it.
Well, and again, I love learning from somebody like you because you've had to just put this different lens on everything in life. And, you talked about intimacy, not being able to have those moments like you did before, but I'm guessing you've found other ways to be present and intimate and connected that other people would only dream of.
This is going to sound corny. I don't mean it, but as corny as this sounds, my wife loves to have her hair brushed. I don't really buy into that. I don't really understand it. She loves it because she's had long days. She's out there with the horses. She does a lot of service. She gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning. She's about hammered at 10 o'clock at night. And the problem is her and I don't have the same taste in movies. She likes The Notebook. Are you joking me?
I don't like The Notebook. I like The Notebook.
Well, I mean, they both die together. And that's a great thing. But she likes The Best of Me. There's one. She likes. What's the author? The guy that wrote all the books. Starks.
Yes.
Sparks. Yeah.
Steven.
Spencer or something. Yeah. It starts with an S.
It's probably good we don't know.
Yeah. The Best of Me. The Choice. The Longest Ride. I'm more of an action. I like, Indiana Jones. I like the old Star Wars, Pirates. I mean, I'll take any of that stuff. So I'll start brushing her with a pencil because I can get a pencil intertwined in my, or I'll use a pick. And I'll just start picking her hair, and she's gone in 5 minutes. No drug on my lap. I'm long sitting, and no drugs needed, none. I want to take advantage, not of her. I want to get my show on the TV, but I can't hit the damn button without. So what happens? I end up watching this chick flick by myself, and at the end I'm kind of sappy and I like it. So I'm kind of like you. I kind of like the shows that you like now, but by force, not by choice.
Amazing.
So you're by choice. I'm by force. There's a difference.
No, it's fair enough.
That's The Notebook. Yeah, I love The Notebook, but not by choice, by force.
I love that scene when he's like, "What do you want?" And I think everybody loves that scene because we've all wanted to do that before to a woman, right? Like, what is wrong? What do you want?
I love that. That's great. A great part of the show.
Well, man, Chad, it's such an inspiration chatting with you and connecting. And, I guess the message you give so many messages all the time. What is the message that you would most like to leave with my audience, I guess?
I think you've done a great job today in kind of gearing us towards that. It's to see the value in the moment. And from that comes this beautiful legacy that when you talked about these lives or the worlds and you don't know what's next, I don't either. I just know the one I'm in. And I'd like to leave it a little bit better than where I left it. And I think I'll be judged on that and that alone. Perhaps that'll be the biggest thing it's not, hey, were you able to walk again? Or, hey, what bad things did you say? Did you go out there and play soccer with those kids? Or did you go to your nephews? Did you help those guys climb that mountain? And I'm going to have to answer, well, at first it was a little easier to just kind of stay in the front room and watch them through the glass window. But then I decided to do, what I heard a buddy say about just take the day at a time. And I went out there and then I started to do it consistently and I finally got a hold of it. And I think that's an A+.
Yeah. I
think that's an A+. And I think that's exactly what you do with your mastermind groups and with your guys. That's exactly what I'm trying to do. So it was fun to be a fly on a wall when I got to see you teach that to those guys. It's exactly what I'm trying to live.
Well, thank you. No, I have this theory. If I can just create amazing moments, like what's the value of a moment? It's so big.
Powerful.
And either you were there or you weren't. And if you miss it, you can't get it back, you know, and you have to be in the room. There's a magic to it. And if I can create as many of those magical moments as I can, that's a life well lived, you know.
Life well lived. It's no one can look back on that and, you know, and doubt that kind of a life. I think you're right.
Well, this podcast has been a pleasure, been a magical moment for me. So thanks again, Chad.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.